Hello, my friends. Unfortunately, Yoav is not going to be here today to talk about a wonderful passage of scripture, which is First Kings chapter 3. That's where we're going to be on today. The link is posted, and I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to pull over, to find some deer so that you have something to watch while you're tuning in, or to join us, or to grab your Bibles, or whatever. Or don't, because I'll include the Bible verses on the screen. Okay? See you in 5 minutes. Hello, Andrew.
How's it going, David Boosidale?
I'm doing all right.
Let's
What is
go.
what is going on in your life?
Nothing much. Just got off work.
I don't even know what you do for work. What do you do for work?
I am an apprentice electrician.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Let's go. Dude, it's where it's at.
And we got Matt here. Matt is here already crowned up.
Oh, I'm clocking out right now.
Oh, are you?
Let's
It's
Yeah,
go.
no, I'm working early today. Just got finished 2 hours for the Sunset Tigers fourth grade graduation.
Purple.
they're called the Sunset Tigers?
Well, Sunset is the school, and their mascot deal is the tiger.
Okay.
Yeah, no, got
It's
into
a
a
sick
very
name.
long. Oh yeah, no, they're very ferocious.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we are in a very interesting topic. I'm surprised Cassandra is not here. I'm going to message her. I'm going to tell her. We have started. Normally, if she can't make it, she tells me. Otherwise, it's just going to be me blathering on and Andrew chewing. What are we eating today, Andrew?
I'm having dessert. I've got Rocky Road ice cream.
Wow.
like
Really?
I said, I worked early, so I can do some blathering today.
Yeah. There's Cassandra. Hello, Cassandra. How are you?
Good. Sorry, I'm late.
That's all right. I was just concerned. I was about to message. Jason says, please chew ice cream louder. How do you even chew ice cream loudly? Seriously. Yeah.
It's got almonds.
That's true. You said Rocky Road? That's what you're
Yes,
going
sir. Yes, sir.
for? We're doing a very famous passage. I was told Jason might attend. We'll see what happens. Because I did not understand the points he was making. He has some opinions about this section, and I don't get it. So maybe he'll come out. Let's go right into the text unless people have announcements. Sartori, you've been doing a bunch of streaming. You're doing a good job. I've really liked what you're saying. I approve of Aslan Church. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Oh, we were just talking on the other one about the gender swap Aslan that's coming.
Oh yes, Meryl Streep. But she's a very good actress. She might be playing still male.
Yeah, I said that it's going to accomplish something good, even if it annoys some people. Like, and probably it'll make some people watch that might not have otherwise been interested. And that's like whatever. C.S. Lewis said. An atheist has to be very careful about the books that they read, and
Right.
and I would say the movies that they watch as well.
Interesting. Okay. All right, let's jump into this. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to make Cassandra read, as is the tradition on this show. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Solomon made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were sacrificing at the high places, however, because no house had yet been built for the name of the Lord.
I don't know how we're supposed to feel about this, because the high places become bad after the temple is made. But I think at this time, maybe it's okay that there's high places. Seems kind of okay. Is it? I don't know.
I mean, Noah, whenever makes a sacrifice, and he's kind of like, he's at a high elevation, ain't he?
Right, yeah. There's images of people making sacrifices at high places, and pre-temple, I don't know if it's bad. Jason, yes, excellent. Jason, are you pro burning things on the high places?
Maybe. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can hear you
I never
great.
know how my headphones work. I'm in the middle of working too, of course, like you. So I probably can't stay long.
That's all right. Oh,
Got it.
oh, then he's frozen. Okay, I can't hear Jason. Can other people hear him? No. Well, poop. Okay,
I
so
can't hear you.
immediately,
I
I
guess I
don't know
don't have
how.
the stream.
He's half in now.
I gotta use the big best thing. I don't think it's fast enough.
See what happens.
Wow.
I'll just muted him so that we don't hear that anymore. Okay, so two things in the passage as is. The burning on the high places, which I think is okay, but also that he makes a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Sartori.
And connect to my phone. Yeah, but I don't know how to do headphones.
What? Okay, Jason, I gotta remove you, because it wouldn't mute for some reason. So Pharaoh, king of Egypt, Sartori has very strong feelings about this. In that he thinks that it's good, that it's like it's the beginning of reaching out. It's like it's missionary dating. It's incorporating the edges. It might be okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's just jump back into it. There was a bit of confusion there. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant David my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on his throne this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father, although I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in, and your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this your great people?"
Okay, excellent. We're going to pause here for a second because there's so much to talk about. People are commenting a bunch here. Okay, burning the high places. Always high places mentioned in Ezekiel, which I think is all bad. David's example of taking bribes comes to mind and the consequences. But wasn't there always something different about Egypt? Don't ever return to Egypt. Yes, yeah, I think that's a preview. But it's interesting because it opens when it's actually talking about Solomon's heart. It says that he's a good dude. Okay, saying no, it's not all bad. And yeah, I do think we got some Garden of Eden. We got some Garden of Eden happening here, which is what we're going to talk about. Let's just focus in on what we have just talked about. So I just hear your voices. I got to ignore the chat for a minute because there's just too many people. It's too interesting.
Fair. Geographically, is this is Gibeon, not Gibeah, where Saul's from? Different places.
Oh, that's a good question. We need to look it up.
I don't
That's
know.
a very good question.
Yeah.
Oh, these are the guys who deceived in order to not get wiped out.
Gosh, that what? But also exemplars of a certain kind of like cunning wisdom. that seems like a fitting place for Solomon to kind of come of age.
That's a good point.
Interesting.
They are characters related to wisdom already.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And I mean, like, would you consider them like almost like an honest deception? I kind of see them as like wrestling with Israel to get some of Israel's blessings, so to speak. It's like we know we're not supposed to be here, but we're gonna finagle our way in.
Yeah, there are some questions I have about that. Okay, any other thoughts that people have on this section?
So it says he walked in the statutes of David, his father, not
Yeah.
Moses or the Torah. How, like, again, David overall up until like his tragic turn is a good, like a generally good example, but I can't recall seeing that phrase like statutes of David anywhere else.
So what's interesting is that afterwards, every single Davidic king, if he's good, it will say he walked in the ways of David, his father. So this is the first time that can appear, right? He is the archetype for the king trying to do his best. So whenever a king is good, it says he walked in the ways of David, his father.
Oh, is this just your English translation? So is that statutes? Are they translating Torah? Like walking in the Torah of David?
Let me pull it up. Let's grab some Hebrew.
Yeah,
Verse
so I think
3.
usually I'm working with the NIV, and he says walks in the way of David is the sort of like the programmatic phrase.
Right. Where are you? Verse 3. And he loves walking. Hakot? Hakot. Yeah, it's not Torah. For the notion of walking and that expression, David his father. Let me just look it up. Yeah, so it first appears here, obviously, and then afterwards. Solomon, blah, blah, blah. I know it appears repeatedly as an expression. The problem is, as I'm searching, it's looking for every time David and father appeared in the same verse. Yeah. I know that it appears for the rest of First and Second Kings as an expression.
Gotcha. I think I'm just used to like the NIV's rendering, which is slightly different, which is why it stood out to me.
Yeah, and then it says, because they have forsaken me and worship Ashtaroth, blah, 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 the Ammonites, they did not walk in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and keeping my statutes and my rules, as David his father did. And Solomon slept with his fathers, Rehoboam, blah, blah, blah. Where does it say? And he walked in all the sins that his father did before him, not wholly true to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father. So it continuously uses David as the standard. Yeah, Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as David his father had done. Yeah, it uses this expression over and over again as it is the standard. The standard is exactly this, and it's the first time it's presented.
So this is a new thing then. Like David becomes the new standard, and now
That's right.
everyone's compared to David, whereas they used to be compared to Moses or Abraham.
Yeah, and that is very interesting. I'm glad you guys brought this up, because it sounds like Moses, this section that we're in, when Moses is having to judge the people, right? And it's too much for him, right? This give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil, and for who is able to govern this your great people, right? That sounds to me like Moses when Jethro comes and says, it's too much for you. There's too many of them. Anything else which is noted? But before I do, Ethan, I am convinced that you were in this meme that I'm talking about. I sent it to Cassandra. She saw it. It does look like him. Does it not, Cassandra? She's laughing. Yeah, okay. She gives it maybe. Okay. Any other things which are noticed in this section?
I just noticed when Solomon prays and he says that David walked in all the ways of the Lord, like it is maybe confirming that there is a change after the whole Bathsheba incident, because that's the only experience that Solomon has with David. Like, and there is not a lot of, all the shady stuff happens before that. So, like the example that Solomon has received from his father must have been pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's advised by him, the last chapter. The thing that has stuck out to me is that we already know Solomon is wise. This is one of the things that's so like this whole interaction is based on him asking for wisdom, but it's a characteristic which he already has. It's a little bit of like a Pareto distribution kind of stuff, where he's going to increase. Yeah.
Fools think they have enough wisdom. Fools don't ask for wisdom.
That's right. Yoav, shalom. Where are you?
Wait. C'est bon?
Well, you just said hello and left. That's all right. Okay.
I was just going to ask about what Jason's in the chat about, because Jason's saying Solomon stuff sets up the new world. It's the Garden of Eden story over again. And I was wondering if the text is saying like there's about to be a new Eden. The potential is here. Everything's set up for Eden to arrive.
Yeah, so wisdom is presented as a proper way of receiving the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. That you could be someone who discerns good and evil in a proper way. And they like the wisdom could be the eyes could be open and it could be positive. And he's also called a child of God. Like he's called a child of God. So obviously for very clear reasons, you could see Adam called a child of God, and Solomon will be called this as well. Going back to Michael had said that he gets a little bit of a feeling of David's example of taking bribes comes to mind. There's a kind of a bargaining with God where God just says, tell me what you want. Ask what I shall give you. Which is interesting there. Let's go down. Now, O Hashem, my God, you have made your servant king in place of David, my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or to come in. Right? I don't know how to do my stuff. I don't know how to do things. I just like that expression. It appears throughout the Torah of like a child being trained to know God. It speaks of you're supposed to speak of him and you're coming in and you're going out. You're sitting and you're rising, right? It's in everything you do. And he presents himself as a servant, which again, David did as well. And it is interesting as well, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. So we can see in this Solomon is making reference to the fact that God has already been good to his promise to multiply Israel. That's definitely part of it as well. Okay. I'm ready to go on unless other people have other stuff that they notice in this intro. This
One
God I need help.
one thing from the phrase you just noted, like you notice there's a people too great and many to be numbered. Is that also
Oh,
what Pharaoh said about the Israelites at the beginning of Exodus?
that's good. I also, man, Matt, I thought you were going to go somewhere else, which is David's sin was trying to number the people. And Solomon is saying it's too many to number. I'm right. Like,
Uh,
that's good.
Well, if he walked in his father's statutes and he's like, okay, here's a big, like, rule number 2 or 3 is don't count them too closely.
Yeah. That's interesting.
But I mean, if he's marries an Egyptian and is thinking, or at least noticing the things that a pharaoh would notice, it's
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. This is so complex. Like we talked last week, where I think you could tell that the text was on Solomon's side. I have no idea how it feels about him here. It is like breadcrumbing that he's going to do bad things later, but is also positive at the same time.
I mean, it doesn't even necessarily like breadcrumbing. It's just drawing out the fact that there's a lot that's ambiguous about his character, especially the further out you are from it. I mean, like
Yeah.
David constantly, you aren't guaranteed a positive interpretation of David's actions because you're not really allowed inside his head. So you just look at his actions and it's like, were his motives pure or impure? It's hard to say. At the very least, at least it's drawing attention to the fact that, like, as Solomon is growing in power, these are the kind of temptations that are uniquely afflicting him.
Right. What is being said right now by Jason? It's one of my favorite proverbs. I think it's a proverb where it just says, "Get wisdom. It is the wisest thing you can get." Or like, the wisest thing you can do is to get wisdom. I'm like, that's so funny. Like, yeah.
Right. Is this also like the Socrates thing of wandering around all of Athens trying to find somebody who's wise?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, the humility, you understand yourself not as wise as Michael was saying. I think that's good. Michael, do you have any other comments on this before we go on?
Well, I can't see her. Does it say that she is Egyptian, or does it just say she's the daughter of Pharaoh?
Daughter of Pharaoh.
Okay. So, one of the reasons why it says that God brought Israel out of Egypt, and why they had to go through the wilderness is because they were worshiping foreign gods. And then, you have the Exodus, and no Egyptians came out in the Exodus. But I think it does indicate that some of the neighbors of the Israelites, once they leave, they're not Egyptians anymore. And, Egypt doesn't come out of Egypt. Like, what comes out of Egypt isn't Egypt anymore. And that's why you can't go back. But, so anybody that leaves Egypt can't go back.
Yeah.
So that's why, even though her her father is still Egypt, she's not, because, a man leaves the father and mother to be joined to his wife. And, likewise, you could say a wife leaves father and mother. So I mean, that's what I think because James B. Jordan did talk on this, but it's like there's no indication that if as far as I can tell, it just assumes she is converted. She's an Israelite now and serves the God of Israel, and her husband, who, you know, depending on your you know want to get like headship into that or whatever, same thing. Like,
But
so,
it's going to turn, Michael. He's going to make a little shrine for her. He's going to make a little shrine for her so that she can worship her way.
yeah, well, Rachel brought house of gods with her too.
Yeah. It's true. Okay, we're gonna move on.
There's different rules for men and women. So.
Yeah. He builds a second one to keep it separate. That's a good point. For those who are reading along, this next line might be a spelling mistake. It's so interesting. It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this. What is strange about this is that you see how it's not all capitals, the Lord? It actually says Adonai and does not actually spell out the divine name here. So that's a very interesting thing to do, that it switches. But either way, I have no comment on that. So people are talking about the Masoretic text right now in the chat. So I just wanted to make mention that it seems like this should be God's name and not actually the word Adonai. But either way. Cassandra, or actually, I'm going to get Ethan to read for us. He's revealed himself to be literate. We can't hear you. You're not as literate as you wished.
No, I'm technologically illiterate.
Okay.
Now it was pleasing in the sight of the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. I'm reading the wrong version. I'm reading my other version over here. Sorry. Let me try again. It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this. And God said to him, because you have asked this and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right. Behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall arise after you. I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you will walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days.
Okay, this is good. That was good. Very good. He sounds like a Moses figure again, right? At the end of Deuteronomy, it says, "No one before, there has never been before, nor after has there been a man like Moses." And so this idea that Solomon is going to be this great king, and there never was before, and there won't be after him. Yeah, because of the way that he's presented himself. I don't know how you guys feel, but for this reason, I feel like the proper answer to what your savings throws are rolled for. Aren't we supposed to roll for wisdom? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Is that just me? No. Cassandra, what do you roll for Grim?
I always do heart.
I always do hard. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because the greatest of these is love or something. Fine, whatever.
What, are you always wisdom?
Yeah, I feel like this passage has affected me, and I feel like that's what I'm supposed to say.
Maybe you're over relying on intellectual abilities.
I mean, maybe. How would I know that that's what I'm doing without wisdom, Cassandra? As soon as I know, then it will be because of wisdom.
Well, I mean, growing up, the story of Solomon always said to me that being smart really didn't get you everything that you want.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take you as far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can rationalize your way out of anything.
Yeah. Ethan, any thoughts on this? On the desire for wisdom and how God interacts with him about it?
Well, I was thinking, like, is it weird that he doesn't ask for wisdom? Like, God gives him wisdom, but that's not what he like asks for. Like, the wisdom word, I think, is only like God adds that to what he asks.
Yeah, give me an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. Let's bring that up in Hebrew. Da-da-da. Oh, who do we got? A lot of people coming in and out today. These are good things.
Yep. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah, this term. Yeah, it's not the word. I don't see the word, for instance, that's used in Genesis 3. That's not present here. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting image. This is Sandra, why I pick it. It feels like wisdom is what gets you the other things, right? And the book of Proverbs is kind of from that perspective. You first get. It's better to be a wise poor man than to be a foolish king who refuses good advice. Keep going though, Ethan. What else do you say there?
Well, like when I clicked on the word that the wisdom that's used here, like the Joseph story comes up a bunch, which I thought was interesting
Right.
because I thought it was going to take me to Genesis 3, and it doesn't go to Genesis 3. But obviously, like discerning good and
Right.
evil takes you to Genesis 3. And
Yeah.
I'm surprised that he doesn't ask directly for wisdom, unless him asking to be able to discern between good and evil is directly asking
Yeah.
via. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different word. It's a different word which is used.
But if he's asking for the ability to discern between good and evil, he's effectively making the right choice in the Garden of Eden by waiting for that to be given rather than taking it.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, you made Jason happy. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, I think there's something here to what he's saying as well, where he presents himself as a little child, which is a statement of humility, a reminder that the term for child is also a term for servant, right? A na'ar could just be a servant, isn't necessarily a boy. It doesn't mean that he's so young. So he could be older and still be a boy, because you're saying you're immature or you're a servant. Which I just like shedding light on this. That's why it's insulting to call black people boy, is because it's a reference to the fact that boy and servant is the same word in multiple languages. Same thing. A young woman is the word. If a young woman is a maid, right? Maid is a young woman or it's a servant. Right. I do feel people have mentioned the ominous. It does feel ominous. And if you will walk in my ways, because he has so far, but it's like, it's conditional, guys. It's conditional. It only goes so far. Okay. Cassandra, go ahead.
And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Then he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and peace offerings, and made a feast for all his servants.
Great. I don't know what it means for him to stand before the ark. Like, he shouldn't be able to stand before the ark, like, not directly. So I don't know how he is doing this. It may just mean that he's like where the tent is that David set up, that the ark is being stored in. It seems to be positive about this. He's being good about it. And where that location is going to become where the temple is. It's like the ultimate high place.
Does this kind of further elucidate that like maybe Gibeon wasn't the best choice? He's like, why would you go all the way up there if the Ark of the Lord is next door?
Right.
Unless part of what he's doing is unifying Israel through sacrifices and sort of doing like a kingly, like wandering around and paying homage at all the local sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm agreeing with this. That's the point that I'm making. Trying to figure out what's going on here.
But also, I mean, if he's walking the statue of his father David, David was a little creative, intuitive, innovated with how he worships, and it didn't get him in trouble the way it got Saul in trouble.
Yeah. Does anyone know who this person is? Kabbalah? Like, that's clearly supposed to be Kabbalah, but emphasizing a bunch of weird stuff. And I don't know what they're talking about. Are they known by people?
They were in Luke's stream leaving comments too, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah, they might be new.
Welcome. Cassandra, this person is claiming to be your BFF. So
him. Okay, I do know him then.
Is it Yon God? What is happening?
He always changes his name. He doesn't have an identity.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Now we get a winky face. Excellent. Stop flirting with Cassandra. She's married, okay? Go ahead, Ethan.
Okay, that word before, when he stands before the ark,
mm-hmm.
What do you have on that word before? Because I've been looking at that word for a while. When I got to the Cain and Abel story, and I got stuck on that word, and it confuses me. /intrigues me.
I mean, there is like in Deuteronomy for the big kind of pilgrimage feast, you're supposed to 3 times a year come and stand before the Lord.
Right. But you're not actually in. Yeah, that's interesting. So
it could be drawing special attention to the fact that where the ark is in Jerusalem. And it could just be that he's as far into the temple course as he's allowed to go.
Okay, that's good. I feel like that does. So here we are. The word before is lapani. Pani is the Hebrew word for face. Okay, so it's. Oh, do we actually have Jason again? Maybe we do.
We do. Headphones bad or no?
Yeah, it's all right. Ethan, you know how the story of Jacob wrestling with God? You know that story? Okay, so it's called Penuel because that Penuel is from the same origin as Penny is before the face, right? In front of, but it's literally like the pen is the face.
It's also like presence, like the presence of a person is their face, and that somehow extends beyond them.
Yes, it is. Right, and you could see how those things would relate, right? Like if you're in my presence, you can see my face, right? Like
Moses. Before Moses, no one has seen God face to face like him.
Yeah, he speaks to God face to face as a man speaks to his friend. That's right. But then, and then you get other things though where God says, "I want to see your face," and He says, "You can't see my face." right? Like, what does that mean? It has different connotations.
And then Moby Dick, where you have the whale, who's a divine creature, but doesn't have a face you can look at eye to eye because of the physiognomy.
That's great. Still on it. That's good. Still on.
It's
Moby
so
Dick.
good.
Yeah. Was there something that you were getting at there, Ethan, though, with the notion of before? Because it is intimate language. I will give you that. The face.
Well, yeah, because when I read the Cain and Abel story, I think it says that like Cain's face fell.
Yeah.
And it's this word. And I was looking at that word, and the word is translated so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's way more going on with this word than I comprehend.
That's right.
And so it's interesting because like the word before to me is like a preposition, and it just means like it's not a very important or meaningful word.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Hebrew, it seems to like connect to numerous things, and like to be face to face with God seems to be a very different thing than to be just before an ark.
Yeah. Because it's literally like the L that's at the beginning of it. The lamed means like in. So it's like stood in the face of the ark, right? Like it's or facing. And you still have this tradition in Judaism where they do their prayers facing where the temple would be, right? Like you turn to face. And early Christian traditions was you would pray facing that direction when you'd said the Lord's Prayer, right? So even the moving of the face, and in that passage that you're talking about, it in English it says, if you do what's right, will you not be accepted? It's not what it says in Hebrew. It says if you do right, will there not be a lifting of the face? Right? You have an image of someone looking down, the face is fallen, they're depressed, and then their face is lifted, they're happy, right? Like, yeah. Actually, on that note, there's one time in Greek where Paul talks about praying with boldness, and the word for boldness literally means to not look at the feet. So you have like an image of like someone looking down at their feet when they're asking for something, right? It's like they're ashamed, whatever.
It's interesting because I don't think I ever really, until you said the ark as a throne, I never thought of it having as like a face and then a back.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Solomon talks to God in a dream, wakes up from the dream and goes, I need to talk to him in person, and goes to the throne where God resides.
That's an interesting idea. Well, because Moses, within Judaism, they would say that every other prophet interacts with God only through dreams. Moses is the one prophet who actually experiences these things while awake, where God talks to him face to face, right? So that is an interesting idea. All right. Let's continue on. Ethan, go ahead.
Then 2 prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. The one woman said, Oh, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. Then on the 3rd day, after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth, and we were alone. There was no one else with us in the house. Only we 2 were in the house. And this woman's son died in the night, because she lay on him. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me, while your servant slept, and laid him at her breast, and laid her dead son at my breast. When I rose in the morning to nurse my child, behold, he was dead. But when I looked at him closely in the morning, behold, he was not the child that I had borne. But the other woman said, No, the living child is mine, and the dead child is yours. The first said, No, the dead child is yours, and the living child is mine. Thus they spoke before the king.
Yeah. This is a tough situation. I also like no other witnesses are brought forward because it's just like, do you agree that this baby looked like her baby? It's just like, yes, all babies look like babies. Like, who do you bring in besides these two? This is okay. This is why I wish Jason was here. So it's the use of the mothers that he also sees as a connection, because it's after the fall that Eve is called the mother of all the living. Yeah, that's what he's getting at. I have no comments on this section. It's the next section that I will have thoughts on. Cassandra, go ahead.
Then the king said, The one says, This is my son that is alive, and your son is dead. And the other says, No, but your son is dead, and my son is the living one. And the king said, Bring me a sword. So a sword was brought before the king, and the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other. Then the woman whose son was alive said to the king, because her heart yearned for her son, O my lord, give her the living child, and by no means put him to death. But the other said, He shall be neither mine nor yours. Divide him. Then the king answered and said, Give the living child to the first woman, and by no means put him to death. She is the mother. And all Israel heard of the judgment that the king had rendered, and they stood in awe of the king, because they perceived that the wisdom of God was in him to do justice.
It's interesting because it's there to do justice. It's not just like, it has a purpose, that function. When I was young, me and my brother were playing with something at a pool, and we were fighting over it. Yanni, there you are. There you are, Yanni. We were playing with something at a pool, and we were fighting over it. And my dad took us aside and asked my brother, would you rather your brother... Okay, he's going to decide who gets it. And he says, I'm either going to give it to your brother or to neither of you. Which would you prefer? And my brother said, neither of us. My brother would rather neither of us got it than that I got it. And I said, give it to my brother. Now, I was not a particularly holy child, but I was clever, and I did remember this story. So I said it because I knew it was a trick, but my brother could not see through that. And so I got it because I'm like, this is a riddle, isn't it?
It also feels like a Cain and Abel situation, where Cain is like, I would rather not have a brother than have a brother that gets something that I don't get.
I think you are completely correct. And if Jason is right, that there are callbacks to Adam and Eve in this, what happens next? It's Cain and Abel. Yeah. Man, that spirit of Cain. The comedian Louis C.K. said that his daughters, one of his daughters, a toy broke, and the other daughter demanded that her dad break one of the other daughter's toys so that it was fair. So, yeah,
Wasn't he likening his kid's relationship to Israel and Palestine in that bit?
I don't know if that's the same bit. Yeah.
You know, I think this story is it's a good demonstration of his wisdom, because it's a lot riskier of a proposition than it seems. You know, because first of all, he asks for them to get the sword, and like puts it there. So, you know, as if to say, like, this it's not a threat. It's like it's not like a hypothetical. He's like saying, "Here's the thing: we're going to do this for real." And he's counting on the woman, the real mother, relinquishing the child for the sake of saving his life. But he also has to identify that the other woman would be willing to see a child cut in half. Like that she's properly upset about it, that she's in that state of mind. Because logically speaking, if you're in this situation, most people would both say, no, don't cut the baby in half. That's crazy. But he had to identify where both of them were, like, psychologically for it to work.
That's interesting.
I think this shows us that, like, this is a way in which we see how Solomon's wisdom transcends David's wisdom. Because as soon as David becomes king, he keeps finding himself in this situation where they've got like a he said, she said situation multiple times. And for David, he makes a decision after both parties are heard. He's like, well, that's all that can be done. We've heard both sides. And to me, it usually seems like he's like, does this sort of like compromise, realpolitik, like best of a bad situation because nobody can know. But Solomon recognizes, like, no, this is where things begin. Like, where there's still more that can be done to discern truth.
Right. I really like what Jesse is saying here.
Jason's...
Sorry. Just the idea that the knowledge of good and evil, he uses evil to bring forward the good. He has an understanding of evil. It's not an ignorance. That's part of what Solomon uses in order to bring forward justice.
What Jason has said before about, like, if they both say let the child live, then they're like both the mother.
Yeah.
Like, that's an interesting thing, because that is like taking on responsibility. But the other thing that's revealed is the nature of this relationship between the two women, because they're living together. We don't know, but maybe they were sisters or something. Whatever the circumstance was, they might be sisters if you want to have a Cain and Abel parallel there. But then when the inner motive or whatever thought is revealed, that relationship is severed, because that woman's not going to keep living with the woman that was okay with killing her child.
Right,
Yeah.
but that brings to the fore the enmity that already existed between the two. It's already a broken relationship. It's now been revealed.
Yeah. But she could have gotten away with it if it went a different way. Then the other woman could have been like confused, like it could have been a gaslighting thing or something. Like if it was a worse judge, because like what do they say is like possession is like whatever 9/10 of the law or something. So it's like you bring the dead baby and the living baby to court, and with the woman holding the living baby, that's like most of the time they're just saying, well, she's got the living, like they would think that she's the real one and the other one's trying to pull something. Because why are you going to drag this other person to court when you are holding a dead baby? That's evidence, so
Yeah.
so
it's also it depends on the woman being so bothered by it that she is not satisfied with the king's response as well. It requires her actually speaking up, right? It requires her not submitting. Solomon is doing something purposely for the mother to say, no, don't do that, right? He brings out wisdom, he brings out justice through doing something that he has no intention of doing.
Just thinking, like, also, like, this has to be resolved. You can't have a messy compromise. I'm thinking it's almost like the reverse situation of, like, Jacob with his multiple wives competing for children. Like, imagine being a child who has two mothers competing for lineage through you. That's an awful situation.
That's good.
You know what? Here's another interesting idea. So David repeatedly is willing to let go of the kingdom rather than like threaten things with his son or whatever. And the baby remains intact, and Solomon's kingdom remains intact. But then you get to like Rehoboam and all that, and like the garment is torn, and the kingdom is torn too, like because there's not a willingness to let it go.
Well, and it's foolishness. He trusts his foolish advisors. It's not his advisors, sorry. It's his foolish friends, his young, stupid friends. He doesn't act like a kid who doesn't know anything. Rehoboam is very much a spoiled.
His red-pilled alpha Chad bros.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it says he's a good king after that, but that was his big mistake.
But he does say, my little digit. No, sorry, that's his friends. His friends say, what you say is, say that your little digit is bigger than your father's leg, which you can guess what that means in Hebrew. It is very Giga Chad bragging,
Yes.
measuring contest, which is, it's just the epitome of foolishness. So it is interesting that Solomon's son will be an idiot.
That's the exact opposite of what Solomon just did. He goes before the Lord and, like, I'm a little child. I can't handle this.
Man, this is even so. It repeatedly says in Proverbs that you should trust your parents. Like, listen to the wisdom of your parents. They're going to try to teach you things. And now realizing how upset he may have been writing those words. This is one of Yosef's favorite chapters.
He's trying hard to, like, not leave too much subtext in there. Be like, I gotta, like, I can't beat him over the head with this, but by golly, he could use a 2x4.
Yeah. And it says repeat. Is it in? No, it's in Ecclesiastes. A wise king comes, and he does good, and he amounts incredible things, and then he leaves it to a foolish king who loses everything. Right? Like, that is Solomon's story.
I also want to echo what Michael just said, in that, like, I've heard elsewhere that, like, there's something very parabolic about this decision that kind of foretells the splitting of the kingdom and has some sort of, like, hidden wisdom for how to maintain on the side of life. But I'm spacing on the specifics right now and can't really look things up while driving.
Yeah. Well, I think Solomon. I mean, this is to jump way ahead, but I think Solomon understood something about that, like the greatness. As far as like the expansion of a kingdom, the way it's the one who brings it to the limit. He brought it to the limit. It's like the same thing with Alexander the Great. He's great, right? But he could hold an empire together that then is divided as soon as he dies. And Solomon is the same thing. So it's like he knew how, he didn't hold back and leave something for his son to actually do better, but then his son tried to do better and cracked it.
There's something to be said for David leaving a big project for his son to prove himself on with the temple. I mean, granted, that was like he was kind of slapped down by God, but also like he kind of like gave Solomon a grad school program, and all right, you got to figure out how to build this temple, and I'm going to kind of like give you a syllabus and stuff like that. But it's still, this is you.
Yeah.
And the project Solomon led Rehoboam with was, all right, you've got to deal with all the toxic sludge of my labor policies.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay? Am I still here? Or am I choppy?
Yes.
Very, very choppy.
You're here. Do I need to mute? I'm driving.
Fine.
I'm sure there's a lot of. Okay.
No. It's saying I'm having internet issues. Okay, before we go, Ethan, is this not you? Does this not look a little bit like Ethan?
Yeah, it looks a little bit.
Yeah, like a little bit, right? What is happening? Yeah, it didn't let me post the link. Yosef is having problems coming in. I'm trying to share the link. You should be able to see it. Why is that happening?
I would say if he goes to your channel, the link will be there because nobody commented really. So it should still be
Shots fired. Shots fired. Cassandra.
nothing personal, but it should still be
No,
Wait, you have your own channel, David? I didn't even know.
Yeah. I post onto.
There's some gold on there.
My own. It's just.
I know. Well,
it's called Fully Alive. Look, if you type in David J. Buzatil, there's not a lot of us. Okay, I'm pretty sure it'll come up if you look for me. But the channel is called Fully Alive.
if you go to my channel, you can see some lovely seal videos.
The
Nice.
best seal videos.
Like the artist.
No. I was walking along the waterfront one day and came across a mother seal giving birth. So, and my phone battery was shot, so my best way to kind of take as many views as I could was to keep recording and posting them to YouTube. So there's all these sorts of little clips. So if you want some like magic of life stuff, you can see a baby seal take its first swim.
That's kind of great.
Yeah.
I like this.
Circle of life. Life finds a way.
For this whole splitting the child in two thing, do we think that's a hyperlink back to like the Garden of Eden and God splitting the human?
Ooh.
Because that's what I've been thinking about. I know I'm also thinking about when the woman tells Solomon there was no stranger with us in the house. I just keep thinking serpent. Like there's no scapegoat here. It's her, it's me.
That's fascinating.
It's interesting in the Garden of Eden that the splitting of the human ends up creating the potential for a greater unity. So you're no longer alone. And I wonder if there's something to like, yeah, the kingdom is about to split, but there's still the potential for something great in your separation.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Yosef, my link is having problems. I don't know why it's not letting me send stuff. I tried figuring out other things. It seems to be that there's problems. Yeah, the splitting of the person is a fascinating image, especially because of the splitting of the kingdom. Of this splitting is how Adam and Eve are sometimes understood, but not always. But definitely the splitting of the kingdom is something.
Well, the other one I was thinking when I thought about that, the splitting of the kingdom, the other thing that had come to mind was in Judges with the concubine, because she's cut into like 12 pieces, and the nation is like totally divided.
Right. But it's still.
But that's but that's also a splitting that unifies.
Well,
like
yeah,
she split, and those split pieces bring all the tribes together. Again, like all but one to do battle against Benjamin. But you see that happen again with Saul, where he splits the oxen in pieces to draw everyone together for Israel to act as one.
Yeah. Well, after that, I mean, that's when you get the Book of Ruth, which is a uniting of a split off between Lot's line and Abraham's line. And then it results in David, who unifies the kingdom. So,
Right.
I mean, it's just, I mean, there is something to the, like, wisdom received by God is the ability to know good and evil without like the first-hand experience, because the other way that you know is by experiencing it. And that's why, like, Israel is like portrayed as this promiscuous woman, because it's like God's willing to let her try all of the bad stuff, because once she's tried everything, she will have the proper context to recognize what is really on offer from the Lord.
Well,
Which is which
yeah,
well,
go ahead.
which is also that it's also the context that Adam receives before Eve is created. It's not a contrast of good and evil, but it is not good and good, where because God says it's not good for him to be alone. Then he has to meet and name all of the animals, exploring creation, finds no suitable helper, and then God brings in the woman, so he can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Which is also why he's more culpable in the fall than Eve is, because he had greater context of understanding like God's faithfulness and goodness.
That's interesting. And then he went out of existence. That is what we call a mic drop. Yeah, there is something to be said about knowing right and wrong, knowing wrong without having to experience it. Because I think that when we experience it, it kind of, we don't get the option anymore. We don't have the ability to choose. Like if you eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it's not an exterior thing. It becomes part of you, right? What you eat becomes part of what you're made out of, right? And so it requires real wisdom. So then the evil is a part of you, right? In some Jewish mystical interpretations, they even think the body that humans receive is the body of the snake. Yeah. So to understand things without having to experience them, to never do drugs and to know that drugs are bad for you, or whatever it is, right? Like,
So it reminds me of G.K. Chesterton's detective character, Father Brown, he's a Sherlock Holmes type guy. And like in this first case, everyone's like horrified, like, how are you so good at predicting what this criminal was doing? You're supposed to be our holy priest. He's like, I'm a confessor. I have lived 1,000 sinful lives.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
He also has a case that is similar to, like, kind of similar to the case Solomon has. I won't say more than that. I'll dig it up, but it's very quirky, very Chestertonian.
Let's see if I can find. Trying to find, where is it? No, I'm not going to look for it. Yeah, so there's definitely Garden of Eden imagery, and there's people that I've known who, like when I was in high school. So I mean, too much information, whatever. I didn't have sex until I was married. right? And when I was in high school, so many people said that that was the dumbest thing that I could possibly do, because like you have to learn what you like and all this other stuff. And I had conversations with other people where they were like, oh, you couldn't get married without doing stuff first. That's like a completely irresponsible decision. And everything that we actually know about statistics related to that stuff is that that's completely incorrect. Is that, and it's not ignorance is bliss. Like people just think, oh, that's because you don't even know what you're missing or anything else. And they're not open to the possibility that there's certain things that if you do, you don't become satisfied anymore. Like you open yourself up to the possibility of never being okay. That you've taken it in, and it's now part of you.
It's a rare achievement. It's like one of those platinum trophies in the video game. Only 1% achieves this goal.
Yeah. Now Michael is saying that because he also did it, so, or didn't do it, I suppose. So good for you.
I didn't do it, and then I did.
Cassandra left at the right time.
You guys didn't even see the private chat when
I did. I almost responded. I almost responded.
Yeah. Okay. Yosef, I'm sorry you weren't able to get in, but I wanted to just have this be one thing. I didn't want to do the restart thing. I don't even know if comments are even working at this point. May not be. Private ones are. I'm gonna get going. This was a good conversation. I don't want to jump into another one. So, any last words, Ethan?
No,
Okay, before you go, I'm gonna show you the video. You can't leave yet. Okay.
I'm looking forward to our future conversation on Grizzly Man.
Okay, good. Michael, do you have any other last words before we go?
No.
Oh, let's go to Michael's daughters.
Yes, they can see you.
And then Matt, do you have anything you would like to add?
Not on the passage. I will say a favorite novel of mine, Declare by Tim Powers, makes much of this the baby splitting story, and I think everyone here would have a good time reading it. It's very much like a TLC vibes novel. It's great in a lot of ways. But
awesome. Okay, I'm gonna show this video now. I couldn't pull it up on my desktop, so I'm just gonna show it to you this way. Okay.
Oh gosh, they're not Christian, not that. Oh, they are. There's no way they're gonna make this.
There's no way you saw that fully. Anyway, okay. I'll talk to you guys later. I hope everyone has a lovely weekend. And I'll see you guys next week.
See you.
Bye.
There's no way they're gonna make this.
I don't know what's going on. Something wrong is occurring and I can't leave now.